Hello again. Chris Lee of Southeastern 16 here with my friend Tyler Siskey. Going to talk a little bit about Hugh Freeze and the events of this week. Tyler does great work with my friend Neil McCready at the McCready and Siskey podcast. He's also, I think, the owner of Quick U, which is basically a consulting business to college football coaches. If I botched the descriptions there, feel free to correct me. But in any case, Tyler, thank you for joining me today.
Appreciate you having me, Chris. How are you today?
Doing well. It is squarely in the middle of football season. Playoff chase is getting cranked up. I'm loving the 12-team format as an aside. I just think it makes the product so much more fun with so many more teams having stuff to play for. But a team that maybe doesn't have as much to play for as we thought before the season is Auburn. And we're having you on today. You went to Auburn, you've coached at Alabama and at Ole Miss, and you're friends with Hugh Freeze because you've worked with him. So you have got a lot of connections here in the SEC and to Bo Wallace, who also was in the news for different reasons. But I want to back up a little bit on Hugh Freeze. I'm sure you watched the Arkansas game. I'm sure you've watched probably the Cal game and some other games. And then, of course, Hugh Freeze made news kind of in the wrong way for how he handled the press conference. As you're watching Saturday unfold, what's going through your head about all that?
I mean, the other stuff I don't really pay attention to. You know, Hugh is a friend of mine. Bo's a friend of mine. Kind of how I've kind of told everybody is like, look, they're both friends of mine. What happened? That's probably between those two guys. I'm kind of like the casino dealer, you know.
Switzerland.
Yeah, just, so I'm just trying to be Switzerland on the whole deal, trying to understand both sides and not butting my nose in a business that I have no business butting my nose into. That's between those two guys. And then any criticism, and I get it. This is the business we chose, right? College coaching, and it's particularly in this league. Anything you do in this league, the media, the fans, it just means more, right? I mean, how many people have shows based on the SEC football or SEC sports, right? A gazillion, right? So it's the passion. That's what makes the sport great. But at the same time, we know what we signed up for. And so, kind of like I've told everybody is like, although I do a podcast, I don't see, it does me no good. One, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to drag people that are friends of mine over the coals just because everybody else is doing it. That's just not what I do. Sometimes that makes people mad. But they'll just have to get over it, you know what I mean? And like, this is, they'll just have to, if you don't like me because I'm not dragging people over the coals and whatever, it is what it is. So anything that's said, that's negative light, and that's not just you. It's, I'm friends with a couple of coaches in this league that are having a tough times. I love and respect Billy Napier too. He's had a rough start this year, and I'm just not, because everybody else drags you over the coals. I don't feel like it's my place to do that as well.
And I think that's an admirable trait, but you also saw it. I didn't think he handled the quarterback situation or the press conference portion of it well. I mean, if you're talking to Hugh Freeze today and he's listening to you about that, what do you say?
Here's the thing. Here's the truth is you can go and we can have shows and we can have, hey, I'm going to say this, I'm going to say that, I'm going to do this, do that. The bottom line is, and it's the hard reality of the position, is he's getting paid a lot of money. What, $7 million a year to be the head coach at Auburn University. Auburn hired him to be the head coach at Auburn University, and whatever he says and whatever he does, at the end of the day, he's the number one decision maker for that program. What I say, what you say, what Neil says, what whoever says, it doesn't really matter. And we can critique it and we can do all that stuff. I also think that it's, on the flip side, nobody, including myself, has ever sat in that chair before. And I've been around him. I've been around Matt. I've been around Nick Saban. I know the issues that come and the pressures that come to that position. But that's also part of what you signed up for. He knows he's not a stranger to it. When he signed up to be the head coach at Auburn University, or anybody in this league, it's a week by week job. You're doing a great job one week. You can be the best thing that ever happened to the university one week and be the worst thing that happened to it the next week. That's just the way the fandom is. So that's what I kind of say is, it doesn't really matter what I think, because he's the head coach, gets paid millions and millions of dollars to make that decision. And that's his program, and he can run it the way he wants to run it.
How do you get back the confidence of a quarterback when it's gone so badly? And I'm mostly thinking of Peyton Thorne, but it didn't go super well for Hank Brown either.
Yeah, it depends on the mentality of the player, right? And I was talking to Neil. I can't remember if I said it on the show or before the show. I don't even remember at this point in time, because sometimes when I'm doing the pod with Neil, I think that's what's fun about our podcast. I can't remember if we were talking about it on the microphone or off. It really depends on the mentality of the quarterback, and, speaking of Bo Wallace and speaking of AJ McCarron, and AJ comes on our show every Monday. Those two guys are different mentality guys. It wouldn't bother them a lick. They're going to come and compete every day and do it. It really would not bother them even in the slightest, because that's who they are. And playing quarterback in this league, it's tough, and it's a mental challenge. And you are same thing. It's the head coach and you. It all falls on your shoulders because you're probably the two high in this league. You may be the two highest paid people in the building, depending on what school you're at. But you got to just, I saw Peyton Thorne's interview where he said, advice to Hank Brown: stay off social media. You got to, at the end of the day, it does not matter what anybody else critiques you. It doesn't matter what I say, you say, no, it doesn't matter. You have to come and compete, and you got to do your job. And at the end of the day, the decision making has to be better at that position, and that's the honest opinion. And as the decision maker in that offense has to be better, they have to take care of the ball more and stay out of negative plays and keep the offense on schedule. I think with the offenses on schedule, I think they're fine. They turn over the ball, they don't stay on schedule, and it's not. I don't care who you're playing. I don't care if Georgia does it against Alabama this week or Alabama does it against Georgia. If Vandy does it against Missouri, in this league, when you're playing league games in the SEC, if you turn the ball over 5 times, it's very. I don't know what the win percentage is, but it's very low. If you turn the ball over 5 times, again, I bet if you go back and look, I would guarantee you the win percentage is extremely low in this league.
Yeah, they got issues there. They were -2 even against Alabama A&M. They were -5 against Cal, -3 against Oklahoma. And look, I didn't like the way Hugh Freeze handled the press conference. And maybe what he should have done is just said, hey, the things that he said publicly should have been said privately. Maybe you take the blame, and that's why you get paid as a head coach, and you bury that part of it publicly. But the fact is, you don't beat much of anybody turning the ball over like that.
No, you're not going. I mean, it doesn't matter who you're in, and I said this, there's been a lot of people that were on the defense about getting off the field and all that stuff. And I've said this on our show the last 2 days is if you turn the ball over 5 times and 2 against Cal, in your 2 losses, they've turned the ball over 5 times each game. If you turn the ball over 5 times, you give up 24 points in a league game, and you turn the ball over 5 times, you give up 21 points in a league game. I don't care about situational defense. You got to tip your cap.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care what it looks like. I don't care what the drives, get off the field here. They did their job. Yeah. They did their job. And at the end of the day, I mean, it's really not that complicated. I know everybody wants to break it down. At the end of the day, there has to be offensive line is not playing up to par with their talent level. They have to play better. They have to stay on schedule at the quarterback position and make the right decisions to keep you out of negative plays and on schedule in the offense.
Here's the weird thing. They're averaging 8 yards a snap, which I think is second or third in the league. Now, look, did they pile some of that up against Alabama and A&M? Absolutely. Although a few teams in this league have done that so far to various FCS teams. But is there potential for that offense to be respectable? I mean, is it just don't turn the ball over and you can be okay? Or what do you think it looks like for them?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to decision. I've been pretty bullish, I guess, on this really the whole year. I really thought that, last year with Peyton getting probably 2 different kinds of voices, 2 different offensive mindsets and teaching points. But that I was like, okay, a full off season of getting the same voice from Hugh and from Derek, because I know Derek talks the same language. So getting the same, conversations would improve that. But it's just decision making. I know that's very coachy speak, but it's what it is. I mean, I don't think I've been in the offense for a long time, almost 15 years I've been in this offense. So I understand it. I've called games with this offense before. I understand it. I know what the quarterback's thinking. I know what he's got to do. And it's not as complicated as people probably think it is. It's just making the right decisions. If it's third, I mean, this is really rudimentary, but if it's 3rd and 1 and we call an RPO, hand the ball off. We're trying to get a first down and keep the chains moving instead of like, oh, we got one-on-one, let's take the low percentage ball downfield. Or, oh, let's pull it because we got an RPO. Just if you keep the offense on schedule, and like you said earlier, they've made plenty of explosive plays on offense. It's not like they can't make explosive plays. Stay on schedule and let the explosive plays take care of themselves.
Peyton Thorne was just a much better player at Michigan State 2 or 3 years ago. It just kind of crazy to see how much he has regressed in this league. Is there enough talent there to get him back on track? Is it just a case where the confidence has been so shot that that's what's going on with the production? Or is it a matter of, hey, when you step up from the Big Ten, albeit that's a great football league, I don't think it's the SEC week in and week out. Is it just a matter of competition getting tougher, or is there something that he can dial back into that we saw a couple of years ago?
Well, I'm sure his confidence is shook.
Yeah.
Let's be real. I don't think there's any way to say he's as confident today as he was the day he stepped on campus. I don't think that's very realistic, right? But with all that being said, I think he's when he makes a mistake, I think he presses a little bit and to try to make up for that mistake, just run the offense. Freeze says it all the time, and it's play the next play. Okay, you're going to make mistakes. The competition level, like you said, is high in the Big Ten. I mean, yes, there is a difference, but it's not like night and day different. You know what I mean? It's not like you're going from a G5. I mean, it's they got dudes too there, right? So
yeah,
it's not even that. I think his confidence is shook a little bit, and I think he's pressing a little bit. I think the offense at Michigan State that he was in was not a quarterback dependent offense. And so, in this offense, you don't have to be the most talented guy in the world to play in this offense. You just got to make good decisions. And I keep saying that, and I'm going to keep saying it because that's just the truth. He's got to make good decisions, keep them on schedule, and don't turn the ball over. That's just, and it's Hank Brown too, right? I mean, you got to make good decisions, and you don't have to be. We've played in this offense and had success with this offense with guys that aren't extremely talented. But if you stay on schedule, the offense can benefit you and your skill set.
Look, I'm not an X's and O's guru. I don't even pretend to be one. But it feels like to me like when Hugh Freeze was running this type of offense and it was running very well at Ole Miss, they were kind of on the cutting edge of things. I don't know that tempo offenses, had been around that long. Is it a case where are people just more used to the stuff that Hugh Freeze can throw at people than they were 10, 12 years ago? Or why is it not? I mean, the obvious answer is quarterback, right? If your quarterback's turning it over, nothing's going to work. But why is it maybe not worked quite as well? Do you see anything else why it's not worked as well at Auburn as maybe it did when he held Ole Miss just rolling?
No. I mean, I heard some, I don't know where I heard it, but somebody's like, oh, it's outdated. No, it's not. I mean, it's the same. Like if you got answers, you got answers, and so you'll go into you'll go into a play where you may have 5 different options on the play, what to do. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about. That was what I was referring to about making the correct decision and staying on schedule. Okay. That sounds extremely complicated. It's really not. Okay.
Yeah.
I know it's like this. It's like you're using StreamYard right here, right? Okay. If I ask you to stop using StreamYard and go to eCam, okay. If I coached you for 8 months how to use eCam, you could probably figure out how to do it. Okay. And so it's just about making the right decisions. It's not, and stop pressing and going and keeping on schedule, because you're going to have options in every play. I mean, in this RPO world, you got, it's all about matchups and everything else. And they got the receivers. Last year they didn't have the horses on the outside to really take advantage of a lot of so everybody was able to just press and load the box and take everything away, take Hunter away. And then that struggle. This year, they got the horses outside. They got a bunch of young receivers that can play and are explosive players. And at the end of the day, I don't know if it's getting too happy within the decision making. Oh, I got one-on-one. I got to take the 50-50 ball every time. You don't. You just got to stay on schedule and keep moving down the field. Know when to check the ball down versus when to take the shot. And there's some, I'm trying to think of the right word. There's some educated, not educated, I call them educated gambles, and when to do that. But you got to, it's like when you make a decision, okay? When you make a decision in life, all right, you're going to write the pros and cons, right? And you're going to weigh the options. Okay. Well, in this offense is very similar. There's pros and cons to everything. You got to make the right decision based on, percentages and not, not just gamble every time that you get out there and try to do something, make the Sports Center play every time. Just run the offense.
Last question for you. Look, Auburn's probably going to be an underdog in 6 of its 7 remaining SEC games. The one in which it's not is Vanderbilt, which has got a quarterback that beat Auburn down there last year. And look, it's Auburn. It never plays out the way you think it is going to. But if it goes badly, and that's a place where when it goes badly, it compounds on you quickly. If the season doesn't end well, they don't have a winning season, where does this go for Hugh Freeze?
I mean, I personally don't think, regardless of what happens, I think he gets another year. I've said, I mean, he's recruiting well. Now you got to maintain the momentum in recruiting. I mean, I'm not blind to that. One thing I'm curious about, I don't think anybody knows. Winning and losing used to affect momentum in recruiting. I mean, does it anymore? I mean, how much are you paying me, coach? I could care less. How much does that factor in? I don't know. So we'll see, but right now he's recruiting well, and he's going to recruit well. That's what he does. He's a great relationship guy. He works hard in recruiting, and it's just a matter of time. If they had a quarterback right now, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah. Well, and you're right about that. I guess where it does affect you is, your boosters have also got to underwrite the checks you're writing too. And that's where I could see that being problematic potentially.
Yeah, no, I agree. I can't argue. I'm not arguing.
Sure.
I agree. I understand. I think we got a little backwards thinking on some things. And when it comes to the booster stuff and all that, is like, we're in a hurry. Like I was joking the other day, and again, Napier's my friend, but that's just a coincidence. We're in a hurry to say we raised $26 million for a buyout. We're in a hurry to say that. Well, where were you when I was trying to pay players? You go give him $26 million and see what kind of roster you can put together. So maybe we should probably get into the mode where instead of like trying to raise money to buy out coaches, because look, in no other time frame in the history of college football has coaching meant less.
Yeah. Like I do wonder if eventually if that does have a little bit of a correcting property, like if you're having to pay a coach $20-30 million to walk away. I mean, unless you're just awful and the boosters can't stand you. I mean, that's the case I'd make if I'm an AD. I want an AD and I want to keep a coach. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying, right? Is I get it. It's fandom. That's why you got to show us what we got to show. It's fandom, short for fanatic. Sometimes I said it's not only short for fanatic, it's short for Fantasyland, right? But at the end of the day, coaching has never meant less. And Chris, I mean this, me and you could go, if you give me and you $20 million, we could go get us a national title team. I mean, this is not even, I mean, it's in coaching. It's like I was joking, how many Mario Cristobal hot takes have you heard this year?
Yeah, funny how that went away. Right.
Why did it go away, Chris?
Well, they bought a roster. They bought starting with the quarterback.
You don't say, Chris. You don't say.
Yeah.
I mean, you see what like at some point, like one, I think it's from and again, I'm always going to defend coaches, and I'm sure when this video gets posted, the comments will be wearing me out. I'm always going to defend coaches because that's my profession, right? But at the same time, it's asinine to say somebody's horrible at their job when they're one of the top 160 people on the planet at their job. Between the NFL and the FBS, you don't become a head coach because you're a bad football coach. Like you don't just wake up and join the profession and tomorrow you get a head coaching job. You've had to prove along the way that you're a good football coach, right? Or you don't get hired. So to say somebody is terrible at their job is asinine to me when you're one of the top 160 people on the planet Earth at doing this job. With that being said, there's no other, we've turned the sport, right, wrong, or indifferent. Everybody got what they wanted, and that's cool, but we've turned the sport into a fundraising contest. And so teams, every single team on your podcast, on our podcast, every single team that we're talking about, hey, they're going to go, they're playoff bound. They're doing this. Every team that we're talking about spends money at a championship level. Period. Let's tell me one team that we're talking about going to the playoffs that doesn't spend money. Tell me one team. Look what Missouri's done and look what Ole Miss has done. Do you think it's just because they became great football coaches overnight or because they've invested in their football program?
Yeah. The ones that got ahead of it, Ole Miss, Missouri, the teams like that, Tennessee, are the ones that either rose from mediocrity to this level or rose from being good to great.
And then you look at Florida. Everybody's like, "Oh, well, Florida's got money." They're literally in a lawsuit right now over a quarterback. They're in a lawsuit about so like, don't tell me that. And then I see you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
I think the amount of money being spent by some teams would surprise them. But I can tell you this: every single team, every single one of them that we're talking about being a playoff caliber team spends money. Does Oregon spend money? Does Ohio State? Does Penn State? Does Georgia? Does Alabama? Does Ole Miss? Does Missouri? I mean, Texas. I mean, every team we're talking about spends money in the big leagues. Now you can go maybe get the Group of 5 bid. They may not be spending money, but look what Memphis lost this last week. But look what Memphis is able to do spending Group of 5 wise. Look how they're doing it versus Group of 5 competition. They're still winning 10, 11 games every year, and so you look at the teams that spend money and it's a fundraising contest. That's what we've turned the sport into.
Yeah, and again, the ones that got out ahead of it are the ones that seem to have had the fewest problems in
Miami.
terms of winning. Miami, and they had some issues at first, but eventually you get the right guys and it pops, and it sure has for them. Yeah, Louisville's another one.
I mean, we can see. I mean, it's every team that you're talking about that has a chance that out of the Power 5 that has a chance to go spends money. Yeah. Period.
Hey, Tyler, thank you so much for your time. And I know you're a busy guy. I want you on your way out, tell folks about your podcast with Neil and Quick U.
Yeah. So McCready and Siskey podcast, we are live on YouTube on the MPW Digital YouTube channel. You can also find us anywhere you get your podcast. You have to look up MPW Digital. We're on that feed. And we update it pretty much about an hour, or as soon as we got the show, he uploads it because we do everything live. But we'll be there Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays at 2 p.m. Central.
And it is, I mean, there's a lot of football podcasts out there, but yours is like one I've never heard. It's very unique, and it is appointment listening every week.
We will 100% make you laugh, make you cry, and pissed off all in the same episode.
And occasionally you get an appearance from the Joker.
And occasionally the Joker shows up. I don't know if he's in town Thursday or not. We gotta wait and see how I'm feeling about my Central Florida Golden Knights taking on Colorado this weekend. But occasionally the Joker will show up and have some fun stuff for Colorado.
Not as many after that Hail Mary the other night.
Oh, well, what's scary is I have them going 4-8, and I had them winning that game. So if they lost that one, I was like, ooh, because they're going to struggle a little bit in Orlando. Do you know how humid it's going to be down there after that hurricane goes through?
Oh my goodness, yeah, that's going to be an issue a lot of places, I think, this weekend.
Let me tell you the one thing from living on the coast, going through the hurricane stuff, we got hammered with it. I was a high school coach in Mobile. We had Ivan and Katrina back to back, right? And the humidity after they go through, oh my goodness, it's you can cut it with a knife. So it's going to be nice and humid in Orlando come Saturday.
Well, let's hope it's not that bad. Let's hope everybody's safe too. And Tyler, again, thank you so much for joining us. And I know we'll do this again soon.
You bet. Thank you, Chris.
This is brought to you by BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Think you know your stuff. Get in on our $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200,000. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino, get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of over 150 slots games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. BetOnline, the game starts here.